Welcome to the newest episode of my complete Factorio tutorial series. Today I'm going to tell you something about all the controls of Factorio. You can find all these controls by looking into your control settings, where you can change every single key just in case you want to change and customize them. Now let's talk about all the hotkeys and key combinations Factorio has to offer. You move similar as most other games with WASD. W for walking up, A for walking left, S for walking down, and finally D for walking to the right. For zooming in and out, you can use your mouse wheel. Scrolling up zooms in and scrolling down zooms out. To mine ores and pick buildings or entities up, you can press your right mouse button while hovering over the thing you want to mine with your mouse cursor. You can place stuff down with your left mouse button while having the thing you want to place in your hand. Sometimes you may also want to rotate buildings before or even after you place them down. For that, you press R to rotate them clockwise or Shift and R for rotating counterclockwise. This either rotates stuff you have in your hand or rotates stuff that's already placed down if you hover over it with your mouse. To open your inventory, you can press E. In this window, you can see all the things you're currently carrying around and everything you can craft. If you have logistics slots researched, then you can also access these here. You can access the GUI of machines and chests by left-clicking on them. Let's talk a bit about some hotkeys for moving items around inventories. For picking up or dropping a single stack to and from your hand, you use the left mouse button. Using the right mouse button will give you half a stack. For transferring stacks quickly around, you can press Shift while clicking the left mouse button. This will transfer the entire stack to another inventory, like a chest you have opened. Clicking on an empty space will transfer everything to the other inventory. Pressing the right button instead will only transfer half the stack. If you press Ctrl instead of Shift for this, you will transfer all the stacks of the same item. Ctrl and right click transfers only half of all the stacks of the same item. If you want to access the GUI of an item, like a piece of modular armor, then you have to perform a right click on it. Performing a click with the middle mouse button will set a filter for that specific slot. When a slot is filtered, only one kind of item can be placed there. If the item you want to filter is already in the slot, you only have to perform a middle click on it to set the filter. If the slot you want to filter is currently empty, then you get a window with all the items you can set as a filter. You can remove filters by middle clicking again. Filtered slots will appear blue. You can also use your number keys to access your quickbar. With Shift and the number keys, you can switch your top quickbar to another one. With X, you can toggle through your active quickbars. You can also define a hotkey to get to the next or previous quickbar. There are also some keys related to crafting. Clicking with the left mouse button on a crafting recipe will craft it once. Right clicking will craft it 5 times. Pressing Shift while left clicking will craft the recipe as often as you can afford. If you crafted something you didn't want, then you can cancel that crafting order as long as it's not complete. This works the same as with crafting. So a left click will cancel 1, a right click will cancel 5, and so on. When you are done checking out all the key combos for inventory management and crafting, then you can close the window again by pressing E or Escape, just like you would close any other window. When you have no windows open, Escape is used to pause the game and bring the Escape menu where you can save all of the game, change settings or quit. Sometimes you want to drop an item on the ground or a belt. To achieve this, you have to press Z and the item will get dropped at the location of your cursor. Now you may want to pick up items from the ground or from belts. The F button is used to do that. It will let you pick up everything around your character. Maybe you have an item in your hand that you want to put back into your inventory without having to open it. Using Q will just do that. If you have nothing in your hand and you press Q, you will activate the pipette tool. This just places the item that you are hovering over with your mouse in your hand if you have it in your inventory. You probably sometimes need a map to not get lost in your massive factory. Using M will bring up the map and hide it if you press it again. You can drag around the map by holding your left mouse button. Clicking the right mouse button will place down a marker, which is useful to mark stuff. Markers also work in multiplayer. You can always access your research window by pressing T. Backspace can be used in a research screen to view the previous technology. It can also be used in a mod window to go back to the last mod. If you want to get more insights about how much stuff you are producing, then you can access the production stats by pressing P. Pressing K will show you your kill stats. L shows the logistics networks. And B brings you to your blueprint library. You can place down ghost buildings by pressing Shift and left click. A ghost will be built by your construction robots and won't cost anything to place down. If you have an empty blueprint in your hand, then you can hold the left mouse button and drag over the area you want to mark for your blueprint. This also works with the construction planners. Maybe you marked something for deconstruction that you actually didn't want to get deconstructed. So to cancel this, you can hold Shift and left click and drag over the area again. You can scroll through your blueprints in a blueprint book by holding Shift and scrolling with your mouse, if you hold the blueprint book in your hand. Since this version of Factorio, there are even more cool hotkeys for blueprinting. You can use Ctrl and C to copy, Ctrl and X to cut, and Ctrl and V to paste what you have previously copied. With Shift and scrolling, you can go through your clipboard, just like with blueprint books. If you messed up, you can also use Ctrl and Z to undo construction and deconstruction per hand or per construction robots. Acquiring a new blueprint can be done by pressing Alt and B, or a new deconstruction planner with Alt and D. If you need a hotkey for getting blueprint books, then you can set one yourself in the control settings. With Alt and U, you can get a new upgrade planner. Toggling the Purcell roboport can be done with Alt and R, and toggling your exoskeleton with Alt and E. Sometimes you may want to enter or leave a vehicle like a car or a train. To do that, you only need to press Enter. Connecting two pieces of train is easily doable by pressing G while hovering over the connection with your mouse. You can also delete the connection by pressing V. In the map of the new train GUI, you can easily add a new temporary station by holding Ctrl and then clicking on the map at the desired spot. Holding Shift instead can be used to click on a station to add it to the train schedule. In menus where you can search for items, there's a search bar which can be easily focused by pressing Ctrl and F, so you can directly type into it. Placing down floor tiles like concrete or landfill can take ages, but by pressing the plus sign on your numpad, you increase the area for stuff to get laid down. The area can also be decreased by pressing minus on your numpad. If your keyboard lacks a numpad, then you will need to reconfigure this to another key in the control settings where all the keys can be reconfigured. If you want to pause the game, you can also hit Shift and the spacebar. This will also bring up a grid which outlines all tiles. The game can show you some tips and tricks by pressing Shift and the slash key. The campaign shows you some pop-up messages that can be dismissed by pressing Tab. It is very useful to press Alt to enable an overlay which shows much more info than you would usually see. Now let's talk a bit about fighting related keys. With Tab you can switch through all your currently equipped weapons. Pressing the spacebar will shoot at whichever enemy is next to your mouse cursor. C will let you shoot directly at things that aren't enemies, like trees and all the buildings in your factory. Just a quick tip, if you want to get rid of items, the only way is to put them into a chest and then destroy the chest by just shooting on it. If you want to get access to the chat so you can write up some wholesome messages or cheaty commands, then you have to press the grave key. By shift clicking on an item, armor, crafting recipe and more, you can place a tag for the thing you clicked on into the chat so others can see and access it. Ctrl-Alt clicking on a map pings that map location in chat. You can also quickly copy settings from one entity like an assembly machine or chest to another. Pressing Shift and the right mouse button on an entity will copy its settings, and by pressing Shift and left click onto another entity, the settings get pasted. Sometimes you may want to remove cables from a power pole. To do that, you just have to perform a Shift left click onto a power pole. You can make new connections by left clicking onto the power pole with a copper cable in your hand. There are also some special hotkeys used in the map editor. The middle mouse button is used to get to the next variation. When you also hold Shift, you can switch to the previous variation. The same hotkey is also used to clone an item. Using Ctrl instead deletes an item. Pressing 0 on the numpad pauses the game. The comma on the numpad is used to advance the simulation by a single tick. You can use some additional hotkeys in-game that are meant for debugging reasons. F4 shows a list of all debugging options. I advise you to toggle Show FPS, as this will always show you how many UPS and FPS you have. With F5 you can toggle the basic debug overlay. F2 brings up the autoplay GUI. Pressing F9 will reset the zoom level. Pressing Ctrl and F5 will toggle the GUI debug, which shows some neat outlines. Ctrl and F6 brings up the GUI style view. Ctrl and F7 toggles the GUI shadows. Ctrl and F8 toggles glow effects in the GUI. F3 brings up the Atlas GUI. This just shows every texture. That was already everything I have to tell you about the controls of Factorio. If you learned something new, please leave a like and also subscribe, so you don't miss any new videos and tutorials. Feedback is also always appreciated. Have a great time, see you all next time.